What is CSR and should you be using it in your classroom? Keep watching for more information. Hi there, I am Janelle Lawrence, the Urban Teacher, and welcome to my channel. In this video, I will introduce you to CSR, the benefits of CSR, how to use CSR in your classroom, and where you can receive resources. Before we go any further, if you hear any background noise, it is because I do have a roommate and I can't stop her from watching TV. So we'll just proceed. Let's get started. What is CSR? CSR stands for Collaborative Strategic Reading, and it is a set of instructional strategies aimed at teaching reading comprehension through teaching methods and techniques for vocabulary acquisition. It teaches students how to identify the main idea or central idea of a text. It helps with developing questioning skills as well as how to synthesize texts. What are the benefits of CSR? CSR was first introduced in my district to special education teachers, and it was a method that they could use in their small group instruction or their specifically designed instruction. It did such a good job closing the learning gap and the reading gap with students with disability in my district that in 2021, during remote learning, it was introduced to general ed teachers. And there are so many benefits. Benefits as in improving student content knowledge, improving their reading comprehension skills. It also helps, of course, students with disabilities and other struggling readers access grade level general education curriculum. The next thing we're going to look at is how to effectively use CSR in the classroom. First things first, you have to explicitly teach the steps of CSR. It's not something that the students are going to get right away. There is a lot of teaching, a lot of modeling, all right? So CSR is broken into 3 stages. It's before reading, during reading, and after reading. Oh, also, as I go on and give you how to do it in the classroom in this and other videos, remember, I am a general education teacher, so my training might be a little bit different than teachers who were just trained prior to 2021 in my district to do it with students with disabilities. I have a co-teacher and we do use CSR in our classroom, and the way she uses it in her small group instruction or her SDI, specially designed instruction, looks slightly different, but most of the processes are the same. Now, if you have done CSR and you got trained to do it as a specifically designed instruction, please let me know how it differs to what I'm about to explain and how the approaches are different. Maybe I can use some of what you learned with my whole group instruction. So before reading, a good reader previews the text. This is the part that the teacher does. Even as you release students to do it in their collaborative groups, you will continue to preview the text with the students. So you read the titles or subtitles or chapter titles, whatever you're given. If there's a title or a subsection, read the titles, go over that. Look at the pictures. If there's a picture on the article or if the book has a picture, look at the picture. Introduce keywords, stuff like that. Of course, CSR teaches how to do vocabulary acquisition, but there's some keywords at the beginning that you can introduce to your students that will help them with comprehending the text easier, as well as develop content knowledge. Now, you also open it up to kids when you do the preview. You have the kids brainstorm. What is everything that you know about the topic? And depending on if you taught it before, you might see that they know so much about the topic. If it's like the first day you're doing it, maybe they might not know a lot, but you'll be surprised how many students have prior knowledge of some of the stuff that we teach in our classroom. So make sure you're activating prior knowledge that way. Finally, in the preview section, make predictions. What are we going to be talking about today? Or what are you going to learn from this particular article or this particular text? Because of course, if you read the title, you have an idea of what it's about. If you looked at the back of the book, you can see this is a small summary of what we're going to find. Or if you're reading something that has an abstract, or if you're like me that read historical documents, they come with context you call it, historical context that also helps students understand what the text is about. Before we go on, I would like to say, even though preview the text is something the teacher does, I also feel like this is something you should teach students to do. When students are taking an assessment, teachers won't be able to preview the text. So this is a good thing to also teach students how to specifically do preview the text, so it makes it easier for reading comprehension later. Now that you have done the before the reading stuff, now you should introduce the different skills that students will learn. During reading, there are two things students have to do. They have to identify click and clunks, and they have to take the gist. These are skills you would have to teach them. So a text clicks if you read the text and you understand it. You understand all the words, all the concept, it clicks. Now a text clunks if you read something and a word trip you up, or you just don't understand the concept, or you're lost with what's going on in the text. That means the text clunks. So in CSR, there are 4 techniques, what CSR call fix-up strategies, that help students turn clunks into clicks. So if there's a word in the text that students come up with and it clunks for them, you should teach them how to use those 4 strategies. The first step of the strategy is have students reread the sentence with the clock. Sometimes simply rereading the sentence, students realize, oh, I understand what that word means. The answer is right there. Maybe, we have been taught how to do context clues since elementary school. It's the same thing. If that doesn't work, students are then prompted to read the sentence before and after the clock. Again, information could be right there. If that doesn't work, students are then prompted to break the word down, maybe find the root word or look at prefixes, suffixes, that kind of stuff to help them understand the text. And finally, this is the hardest for me. This fix-up strategy is called identify cognates, so work with the cognates. It is a bit difficult for me just because I only know the one language, but if you have students who are multi-language learners in your class, this might actually help. It's hard for me to come up with examples of cognates, but one I do know is if we're reading something and we come up to the term agricultural tools, and students get stuck at agricultural tools, I know that I can ask students, like, let's look at the word agricultural. Can we find the roots? And maybe they might say agriculture. And it's like, okay, now think about it in Spanish. What word do we have that sounds like agriculture? And students gonna be like, agricultura. Probably not saying that right. I don't speak Spanish. But agricultura means farming in Spanish. So then that way they can break it down and be like, so what do you think agricultural tools are? Farming tools. And that's how you use the cognates. But again, it works better for people that speak multiple languages. They can find a connection between different words that way. Now, it's a long process. Sometimes students, depending on how fluent your students are, their reading level, they might identify a lot of words that clunk, and it does take a while to go through it. But again, you're teaching these strategies so that later on when they have to work independently, it's easier for them to do it, especially like in a testing situation. After they have made all their clunks click, then they can do the next step, find the gist. I want to point out, if there was no clunks, then they could go straight into finding the gist. So finding the gist, I think, is an easier thing for them to work with, at least my middle schoolers, because they have been asked to identify main ideas throughout their educational career. But you still should teach it explicitly. So when you find this gist in CSR, what you're doing is identifying the most important who or what, the most important information, and then writing it in about 15 words or less. This is where it gets hard or tricky for the students, keeping it succinct, keeping it about 15 words or less. But you want students to understand that a gist is just a quick little jot of what the section is about. I like to tell them like this: when you're annotating, or when we get to the point where we're no longer writing this information in learning logs, think about the little gist you write in the margin of an article. You don't want it to be too long. The final stage of CSR is the after reading stage. This is where you teach students how to generate meaningful questions. In CSR, there are 3 types of meaningful questions that you can have students generate. They are write their questions where the answers to the questions are right there in the text. Simple, easy to do. Students have no difficulties with this kind of questions or these kinds of questions. Then there are the think and search questions. Again, the answers are in the text, you just have to think about it and search for the correct answer. And then the more difficult one is the author and you questions. Answers aren't in the text, you have to think about it, they come from your mind, and you have to teach students how to answer those kind of questions. Of course, even though the answers come from the mind, they need to be supported with evidence from the text. Also in the after reading stage, this is where you teach students how to engage in discussion about the text, as well as summarize their learning, find the main idea. Maybe you can even ask specific questions that you want them to write about. This is the after reading stage. This is where they do most of the independent work, where they're just answering questions. Of course, a good collaborative learner will discuss it with their group mates when you release them to do that, but this is where some of the independent work comes into play. Now finally, as I promised before, I will show you where you can find CSR resources. The first place I want to talk about is where I initially got a lot of my resources. There are so many cue cards, worksheets, even videos of CSR being used in the classroom, and you can find that at CSR Colorado. That is a website, the actual website link is in my description below, but that's where I initially got all my information about CSR. That's where after I did my training, we signed up there. I do think you have to register first before you can access that information, and again, the link is in my description below. You can also get resources from the Urban Teacher. These resources will be free and they are on my website. And the link will be below, but it is urbteacher.com, urbteacher.com. Another place you can find resources will be the TPT store, and these resources are free. These are like posters that I've created, and my TPT store name is the Urban Teacher LLC. Again, linked below. I've also linked a video of students engaging in the CSR process so that you can see how it is, and it is really good. Once students begin to do it independently, or I should say more collaboratively, you see that they take charge of their learning. So there's a video linked below as well. And finally, another place you can get resources is this channel. So after this video, I will be breaking it down, like how you should actually teach each stage and each skill. So stay tuned for more videos. Just subscribe to this channel so that you do not miss out. Now this video simply serves as an introduction to CSR. For a more in-depth look at CSR, how to use it in your classroom, how to teach it, and the resources that you can use, please stay tuned for more videos to come. Again, they will be uploaded shortly on this channel. And since you've made it this far and hopefully this information was useful in some sort of way, please like this video. It does help me grow as a channel. Also, please subscribe to my channel, turn on your notifications so that you do not miss another upload. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you return for another upload. Bye.